this is a fairly bizarre hearing, to tell you the truth. So President Trump spent all of 2024 insisting that he was going to go after immigrants who commit serious crimes, the so-called worst of the worst. And yet he, like with almost everything else that Trump has said in 2024, and before that, I might add, that was a lie. Instead, his regime has indiscriminately gone after all immigrants, not just those who are undocumented, but legal immigrants and people who have done everything the right way. So a lot of people just get swept into this desire to, on the part of mainly Stephen Miller apparently, to get rid of immigrants in our country. So the president has insisted that travel bans and visa processing suspensions affecting immigrants from 92 countries. He's made it really tough for people from those countries to even get here. He has targeted international students with student visas, declining from 91,000 to 42,000 from 2024 to 2025. So you can imagine the impact this is having on our educational institutions, many of whom welcome students from abroad to add to the diversity, not to mention the payment of tuitions. And he has also tried to override the Constitution by redefining or basically getting rid of birthright citizenship through executive order. That this is a case before the Supreme Court. Denaturalization is just the latest step in this regime wreaking havoc on our already broken immigration system, trying to break it beyond repair from where I sit. And he is now telling 24 million naturalized Americans that their citizenship can be questioned. And I think when I say this hearing is bizarre, I mean, you're going to use conduct that occurs 10 years after the naturalization was conducted or the application for naturalization was submitted, and conduct 10 years later to somehow go back to the point of the application to determine whether there was fraud committed. That's very bizarre. So 24 million already naturalized citizens. I happen to be the only naturalized citizen sitting on this committee. And I am horrified by the implication that naturalized citizens basically get second-class citizenship. Not only, and should they commit crimes, yes, as citizens, they should be prosecuted like any other U.S. citizen. But what this laws or bills like the Scam Act does is to subject the naturalized citizen to even more harm or more than what would be visited upon a U.S. citizen, which a naturalized citizen, by definition, is. So let's be clear. This has never been about law and order for the Republicans. This is all about getting immigrants. It's about terrorizing immigrant communities, whether it be ICE officers who are acting outside of what one would consider reasonable behavior, and using our immigration system as a pretext, basically to keep certain people out of our country. As a naturalized citizen, I'm proud of it. I can't think of a more undemocratic, un-American thing to do to someone who chooses to become a U.S. citizen, to hold this over their heads and treat us like second-class citizens. I do have some questions, but I still have some time. I have a question for Professor, excuse me, there's one professor sitting there in the middle. Okay, Professor Sphero. So what do you think about this effort? Like efforts like the act that I just talked about, you mentioned it. What do you think about this effort to try and impose even more requirements on naturalized citizens than we do on citizens?
So I agree, Senator Harino, that this is of a piece with the war on immigration, including the war on legal immigration. Mm-hmm. And it does send a message that that citizens who have naturalized are not secure in their status. So Senator Schmidt earlier said that fraudsters should be scared, terrorists should be scared, spies should be scared. Naturalized citizens should not be scared. They should not be afraid. But I think this is also largely a sideshow because there are very few naturalized citizens who are actually going to be denaturalized under either existing authorities or under the proposed legislation because the courts are so vigilant with respect to denaturalization cases. And to take post-naturalization conduct and refer it back to the date of naturalization is really a kind of perilous inquiry. Again, I think we can all agree, as Senator Welch started us, that if you were a member of a terrorist group at the time of naturalization, then you should not be naturalized. But if 10 years later you do something.
So we can talk about people 10 years later who commit murder, heinous acts, but the SCAM Act also allows people to be prosecuted for welfare fraud. Just about anybody who is in the welfare program can be accused of welfare fraud. See, this really opens up the way that people can be sought to be denaturalized, and there is some kind of a directive that our agencies, citizenship and naturalization agencies, are supposed to come up with 100 to 200 cases of denaturalization every month. They're not talking about going after terrorists. 100 to 200 every month. No, they're talking about going after the people that they could accuse of a whole bunch of other things. And that is why 24 million people who are naturalized in our country are going to be subjected to this kind of so-called oversight, and I think is, to say the least, it's more than astounding. It should be unconstitutional. Thank you.